And welcome back to the North Star Takes podcast with Bailey Palicki and Jacob Liberta. You can find all our podcasts here on our YouTube channel, so hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and feel free to give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram as well. We're less than a week out from the week one regular season opener for the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. And we're at this point where we need to kind of decide, what are we confident in about this team? What are we not so confident in? What are we kind of questioning going into the season? I know fan base in general was very high on this team throughout the offseason. And I kind of get the sense that that's died down at least a little bit with how crazy this last month of training camp has been. The preseason certainly looked ugly. So what do you want to start with, Liberta? Do you want to start with things we're certain about or things that we're kind of worried about?
Let's start with the things we're certain about, because after August kind of felt like a setback going through training camp, the preseason, I feel like we need to get back to talking about good things like we had to say during our off season when I thought things were trending in the right direction for this team.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into things we're certain about. I'll have you go first. What's one thing you're absolutely certain about with this Vikings team?
I'm certain that our season will live and die with Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson. I think they're easily our two best players, especially offensively. Obviously got to consider Danielle Hunter too, but I think with those two, if they're not in this offense, it's going to look inept like it did in the preseason. I know it's just a preseason, can't take a ton away from it, especially when those guys aren't with our offense. But at the same time, if they're not during the regular season, we're going to look bad. And I feel like there's no way around that. I feel like, especially with supporting players such as Irv Smith being out with an injury, I think that's really going to hurt us if any more people are out. So especially in that starts with Dalvin and Justin Jefferson, because obviously with Mike Zimmer's identity of his team being ground and pound and play defense, it starts and ends with Dalvin Cook. And then you got Justin Jefferson, our new dynamic, arguably top 5 NFL wide receiver. So if these guys aren't in the offense, I think then we're kind of screwed. But if they are, they're going to be stars, and I am certain of that.
So what I found out today actually is that in week one here against the Bengals, Trey Waynes is going to be out. So the Bengals top corner is going to be Eli Apple.
Oh.
And he's going to have to cover either Jefferson or Thielen. So there are no excuses for the Vikings in this game, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Like, you should be able to expose that matchup every single time. But I agree with you. I think Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson are way too valuable to this team. Obviously, Dalvin has somewhat of an injury history. He's missed some time before. Last 2 years, he's been pretty good about it. He's only been nicked up and missed a game here or there. But Jefferson, he battled a shoulder injury throughout training camp, so he didn't play at all in the preseason, which is probably fine. He doesn't need the preseason, obviously. But I agree with you. If those guys go down, we're absolutely screwed, because like Alexander Madison's kind of had his chance to prove himself, and he hasn't done much with it over the last couple seasons when Dalvin's missed time. I think Kenny Nwangu is kind of an interesting player, but he's hurt to start the season. And obviously Amir Abdullah is nothing special. That's why they cut him and put him on the practice squad. And then if Jefferson misses time, you have Adam Thielen, who's still very good, but he'll probably get double covered, which would be the smart thing to do. And then you're left with guys like D.D. Westbrook, KJ Osborne, Amir Smith-Marset, which D.D. Westbrook has some NFL experience, which is good. But at the same time, he's coming off an ACL tear. He hasn't really done much of anything through training camp or preseason. Then you got KJ Osborne, who hasn't proven anything as an NFL wide receiver. So it's a tricky situation. I mean, we kind of saw throughout the preseason that the depth on this team is lacking.
Yes, we did. Honestly, I think you made a lot of good points there, especially at the depth of the receiver. I mean, it's just a lot of guys that I think could fill in for a little while, but they're not going to be able to replace any of our stars. So yeah, again, it just kind of goes back to the point, if we lose our main guys. I mean, that's kind of with any team, though, but especially us, it feels true that if they're out, man, it's going to be a long season. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But Bailey, how about you? What's something you're certain about?
One thing that I'm absolutely certain about is that the defensive line is going to be a nightmare for opponents. I mean, you're bringing back Danielle Hunter, who apparently looks better than ever. We didn't get to see him in the preseason, but I'm kind of glad they didn't play him throughout that either.
Yeah, he didn't need those reps.
No, absolutely not. He's going to be a beast. Then you bring in Michael Pierce, who we signed last year. He opted out. He's coming back this year. You have Dalvin Tomlinson in the offseason free agent signing. So you have two big, beefy defensive tackles to help stop the run. You got DJ Wonnum, a second-year player who's going to be the other starting defensive end. And I think he's got great promise. He had a pretty decent rookie season. He's gotten better from the looks of it. Then you have so much depth on the defensive line. You got Sheldon Richardson, who has been
Yes.
a starter his whole career, and now he's going to be a backup pass rushing specialist. Like, that's amazing. Same with Everson Griffin. Bringing him back is huge. You got Stephen Weatherly, who was a good rotational pass rusher for us, a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Armon Watts has improved at defensive tackle as well. So this defensive line is just so incredibly deep. And I think it's going to have to be good because I think Anthony Barr is probably not going to play week 1. I don't know how much time he's actually going to miss. And then so the linebacker position is weak minus Eric Kendricks. And then the corners looks good on paper right now, but I mean, nothing's proven. Patrick Peterson's getting old. Bashad Breeland's been just a decent corner. So the defensive line is going to have to be very good, I think, for this defense to be decent.
Yes, 100%. I think that kind of is a pillar of championship teams. If we think we have Super Bowl aspirations, I think it starts with that front four on defense. And right now, I think it looks great, especially since everybody's healthy, which is just knock on wood, great.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where our success this season, if we're going to have any, starts. And like you said, I've heard great things about Danielle Hunter ever since he came back, got that contract situation figured out, and he's just been a stud, and that's kind of what you expect him to be. And it's nice to have that, especially coming off his neck injury when things were a little up in the air as far as could he return to the same player he was before. And it sounds like all signs point to him returning to form, which is great. And he could be, I'd say, a potential defensive player of the year. I mean,
That'd be great.
I think this guy could come out and have 20 sacks, in my opinion. But and then obviously
Wow.
I don't say that lightly either. I think he's got all the capability in the world, and I don't think he's even hit his peak yet. He's still very young, or relatively, especially at his position. And yeah, the sky's the limit. And like you said, the run stuffers, it's just amazing to have that, especially after we just got gashed by the run, especially down the stretch last season. So it's nice to kind of resolve that problem, hopefully. And there's just a lot to be excited about in that group. I totally agree.
Absolutely. So let's jump into things we're worried about here. We each give one of those as well. So right off the bat here, what are you most worried about?
Yeah, kind of going back to something you mentioned here when you were talking about the defense in general and looking specifically at the linebacker group, I think that's a little bit scary because, like you said, with Anthony Barr's uncertain health and the depth behind him and Kendricks, I'm a little bit scared about that position because I think that's another piece to a good defense is these guys got to play sideline to sideline and be kind of just aware of what's going on and just doing a bunch of different things. And I don't know if our depth guys are really – I don't know if they'd really be up to the task. Like – these guys didn't look great last year. The likes of like Troy Dye, for instance. I think this is a little bit concerning. Obviously, hopefully these guys got better over the offseason and during this during training camp when they got first team reps, honestly, with Barr out. So let's hope things got better. But at the same time, like there's a lot of unknowns there, and that's pretty scary to me. So I'm just hoping, obviously, that Barr's gonna be all right and he'll be able to play sooner rather than later. And because when him and Kendricks are out there, then you just feel like you have all the stability in the world because those guys have been our two linebackers in our defense for ever since Kendricks got drafted in 2015. They've been just reliable and consistent. So I think that's what I'm hoping for is that just Barr will be okay and we don't really have to test the depth of this linebacker room.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with you. That is a major concern. I mean, that could be the one hole in this defense, honestly. Strong defensive line, defensive backs appear to be stronger this year. But yeah, linebacker is just a major question mark if Anthony Barr is not playing. And that's probably a lot to ask for a guy like Chaz Surratt to really step up and play a big role, or even Troy Dye in his second year.
Yes, absolutely.
So they'd have to rely on a guy like Nick Vigil or, maybe like Ryan Connolly or someone who's like been in the league for a little while, which that still doesn't excite me,
No.
So that is concerning with the depth at that position. The one thing I'm worried about is mostly just the offense in general, but I'll be more specific and just say Clint Kubiak's ability to call plays in the NFL.
Yes.
The preseason did not look great, and granted, they don't always run the best stuff in the preseason. They kind of have a vanilla playbook. But I was disappointed to see like he wouldn't let Kellen Mond like truly open it up, or
I know
wouldn't be aggressive. The Vikings,
Mond and his arm strength.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see that.
Exactly, and it's preseason. You have nothing to lose. Why are you punting on 4th and 3? Like, go for it. I just fear it's going to be the same crap again this season. And I know that's kind of Mike Zimmer's MO. It's like, oh, if we get sacked on first down and it's 2nd and 17, I don't want to ruin it any further and go backwards even more. So let's run the ball for 3 yards, and then
Yeah.
you have 3rd and 14, and it's like just you got to be smart about it. Like stay ahead of the sticks. If it's 2nd and 17, throw the ball because you're not going to get it back by running the ball. As good as Dalvin Cook is,
Yep, exactly.
It's just the inefficiencies and stuff like that. And then you factor in Clint Kubiak's never called plays before. He's a young guy. He's Gary Kubiak's kid, but how much does he really take from that? Like how much has he learned? And when it comes to in-game adjustments and stuff like that, I truly question that. And the offense has basically all their main players coming back from last year, and hopefully an improved offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said earlier, if Dalvin or Jefferson go down, then what? It's like we had the offense is what led the team last year. They were a top 10 offense. But I just worry that this year it's going to go south again, and it could be a replica of like 2018 per se, where the offense just kind of lets you down. You have a good defense, but the offense lets you down and doesn't live up to expectations.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to make, Bailey, with Clint Kubiak and identifying that he's a first-year play caller. And I think that's a huge unknown that I don't think a lot of people are really talking about right now, especially this close to the season. It's like he could come out here and not know what he's doing, calling plays, and that just totally sinks the offense. Then you're really banking on that revamped defense to carry you. And we still don't know if we truly can do that. And I know for certain that you're not going to be able to do that when it comes to the playoffs. Like your offense is going to have to it's going to have to show up if you're going to get anywhere. So I think we can definitely ride Dalvin and Jefferson for a while, like just based purely off their natural talent. But at the same time, when it comes to good defenses you're going to play, especially in the playoffs, like you're going to have a good offensive game plan in place, and that comes down to the offensive coordinator really calling good plays, putting guys in good spots to just make plays and score. So I think that's got to be a huge thing that people keep in mind is Clint Kubiak, and that how much hinges really on him really putting our guys in the best position to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say just one more thing I'm worried about, and I know you're probably a little worried about this too, maybe not as much as I am.
Sure.
But just the vibe of the team going into the regular season. It just feels like, there was so much happiness and good vibes like as soon as they were reporting for training camp.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the whole COVID controversy.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Jefferson gets hurt in a practice, and then obviously he's back now, but like Irv Smith gets hurt, and Darisaw needs a second surgery on his groin after getting surgery in like January or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like all this stuff happens within a month, and it's like, where are we going into the regular season? And I just hope things aren't as clustered and unorganized as it seems from the outside, as they're heading to Cincinnati here for week 1.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah, just the whole vibe definitely feels like it's changed. And yeah, really after that whole COVID situation, before we even played a preseason game, I feel like that was kind of the inflection point. So let's hopefully we can really reel it back in. These guys can play together and get off on the right foot in Cincinnati, because I think I know this seems kind of maybe far-fetched, maybe a little bit ridiculous to some fans, but in all reality, I feel like when you're looking back on the season down the road, like it's true that this first week, albeit a first week, like I think it's a must-win. This is a game you have to have. When you hear about Cincinnati kind of having their offensive struggles that they've had in camp and preseason, and Joe Burrow, coming off that torn ACL and coming back for the first time after that gruesome injury, like, man, this is a game we have to have, and if we don't, that could set the tone for the whole season. And I know it's just one game, but still.
Yep. No, I agree with you. The Bengals are one of the worst teams on your schedule, maybe minus the Detroit Lions and the Panthers.
Yep.
So, even though it's a road game and it's week 1, you have to win this game. If you lose this game, you're probably losing to Arizona, you're probably losing to Seattle, and then it's in a tailspin from there. So,
and there's not a lot of teams that start 0-3 and make the playoffs. Let me tell you.
Exactly. Yeah. Even now with a 17-game season, I don't see that changing.
No, especially in a pretty deep NFC.
The Vikings always seem to be a team where if things start going south, it goes south in a hurry.
When it rains, it pours.
Especially with Mike Zimmer leading the squad. So I don't know. I don't feel great about it if they don't start off good. Like you said, if they can somehow, if they beat the Bengals and can somehow like steal a game against Arizona or something on the road, that'd be a great start for this season.
Yes, coming to the home opener 2-0, that'd be ideal.
So very quickly here before we wrap up, has your record prediction changed at all? I think what'd you have them at 11 or 12 wins before?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was. I change my mind on this every day, let's be honest. But I think at this point, after what we've gone through this past month, I feel like a safe bar is 10 wins. I'm thinking 10 wins is what we will get to. Hopefully, that's just an at least number. Hopefully, we get more to like 11 to 12 range where
Hmm.
we're in contention to win the division and host at least one playoff game. That's probably my perfect world. But at the same time, I feel like a realistic bar right now, I'd probably just say 10 wins just because, Kirk has never won more than 10 games in the season. So
Yeah.
I feel like until I see it happen, I just can't predict it per se. So I'm going to say 10-7 right now. Will be pretty realistic, and obviously, I think there's some high volatility there where it could definitely be worse than that. But it could.
Hmm.
I honestly think on paper this roster could win a lot more games than that, and I feel like that's pretty safe. So I'm thinking 10 wins is the number right now. What are you thinking, Bailey?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you around the 10 win mark. I would say I'd feel more safe with 9 and
Yeah,
8, which would not get it done. I mean, you could
no,
maybe sneak in the playoffs, but I don't know. I don't know at nine
that's not what you
wins.
want. No,
No.
because we'd be like seventh in the NFC, and then we'd be playing a road game on Wild Card Weekend against the second best team in the conference.
Yeah, which could be Tampa Bay, it could be Green Bay, it could be somebody. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you though. I know PFF has them right now at like I think I saw 7.8 wins or something like that, which is not great. I
Ooh,
mean,
no.
they're kind of low on the Vikings, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be tough. I would say yeah, 10-7 if they can stay healthy, if they can mostly avoid drama.
Hmm.
But if they have any like key injuries, if like Daniil Hunter gets hurt again or if Jefferson has to miss time, like I don't know, man. It could go south in a hurry. So I'll safely put it at 9 and 8 for now.
Hmm.
Hopefully, obviously that could change if they come out with a strong week one showing and prove that they're a little
Yes,
a little different than what everyone's thinking. But
exactly.
I don't know. I'm not feeling too high on them right now.
No, I could see why after all the events that have transpired. It's just at this point we're not really sure what's going to happen here. I think we'll be able to tell a lot from these first couple weeks, but I mean, it's just hard to say with Kirk.
Mhm.
Captain Kirk. He's got he's never had a record better than 10-6 like we had 2 years ago, and
Yep.
he's just been a 500 quarterback his whole career. So when you say 9-8, like that could very well be where we end up, and that's going to be frustrating when we get to the end of the season if we're really there. But because I either want to be really good or I want to be really bad, just get a good
Yes.
pick and just get rid of Kirk and let's get our quarterback.
Yeah, I'm with you. If they start off slow, you might as well just mail it in because
Yep.
next year I don't. The quarterback class is kind of unknown right now, but I'm guessing there will be a couple good ones. There usually is
Hmm.
towards the top of the class.
Hmm.
If you don't really know what you have in Kellen Mond, then you probably need to draft another quarterback because Kirk Cousins is going to be off this team next year. I feel like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Whether it's Zimmer's back or it's a new coach, I just don't see him being back especially at 45 million. I think his cap hit's going to be.
Oh yeah, no, that's absurd.
Yeah, it's outrageous. So I'm with you. If you're going to be good, then be good. If you're going to be bad, then just tank. Honestly,
I
so
don't I don't want another mediocre season.
no, we're well past that point. We as fans deserve more than that. So,
Yes, we do.
but yeah, that's going to do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram, and leave your comments below about how you're feeling about this current Viking squad and what they're looking like going into week one. Thanks for watching.